let's see. Oh, before we get started, you guys want to stand and pledge allegiance? Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Kevin to his first, it's his first service committee meeting.
Thank you.
So,
My chopped liver, it's my first one too.
Oh, you are? I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I was on it back in 19, but it's great to be back.
I don't see any citizens out here, so there must not be any concerns. Approval of prior month's minutes.
Well, neither one of us were on the committee, but I was in attendance and I read the minutes, so I have no objection.
Okay. You can
No
abstain
objection.
if you want.
I'd like to abstain in this one, please.
Yep. They're good. Cape Orleans Park Bid Award. One of you guys are off.
I just wanted to ask a question. Oh, okay, then I'll go. I brought in a ringer.
I see that.
I had the suspicion that Kevin might have questions because he likes things with the word bid in front of them. And I didn't want to not know the answer. We're going to pave the parking lot at Orleans Park, essentially. We went out for bids on January 7th. We got 9 bids. The bids range between $168,000 and $235,000 approximately. The lowest and best bid was Geddes Paving and Excavating. And they came in at $168,749.73. We're asking for them to be granted the bid as well as a 10% contingency in the resolution so that hopefully we won't have to come back to you for any change orders. We can deal with any change orders with that contingency. The amount for the contingency is $16,847.97. And will only be used if necessary.
And there was no alternates on this one.
There were no alternates on this one, no.
Ours.
And I know the contingencies, that's typical, roughly 10%.
So before, I'm going to say before the law director in front of me, I'm not positive that that's a correct statement. They used to do change orders.
Yeah.
And it really didn't make a lot of sense to have to come back for every little thing. So contingency started in the city about 3 years ago, and we use our city engineer to give us the amount that he thinks is appropriate. So in this case, we did 10%.
I think that was something that Jonathan Smith and I.
Remember that recently getting
Yeah,
discussed?
because they didn't used to do it, and then we have to do change orders and come back.
Okay.
Which is stupid.
I usually go with about 10%. If it's something that I'm pretty sure we're not going to run into anything, we may knock it down a little bit. If it's something where you're remodeling a building that was built in the 1950s, I might up it a little bit. Just because you never know what you get into.
Yeah. Yep.
Brian, any changes? What significant changes are there from, what we see now, the stone lot? Is there going to be different configuration? Parking going to be different? Are they going to add spots?
Actually, we're going to be adding landscape islands.
Landscape islands,
So
of course,
that'll
we
be
have to.
city code.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be, I believe it's 50 parking spots with 2 handicap parking spots up by the walking path. There'll be a little extra room on the side. We're not going to stripe it for parking, but if there's trucks with a boat trailer or something, they could pull off there. It's going to be set up with perpendicular parking in the middle, so cars can use it if they're there. If there is a truck with a boat that wants to pull in there, they just take up 2 spots.
Okay, so those are striped?
Yeah, the middle part is, yes.
Oh, okay. Handicap. Only 2 handicaps?
Yeah, that's the required for the
Oh.
number of parking spots.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see removing those wooden posts that are over there by the trails, that they're not replacing those?
No, the ones by the trail are gonna stay. We're taking them out of the middle.
Oh, those are the ones in the middle, I see. Okay,
I'm trying to think, where are they? Orange Park?
yeah. It must be posted right down the center of it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and then there's posts around the outside. We're afraid if we get rid of those, that when it's busy down there with the walleye stuff, people are just gonna pull off the parking lot and drive through the
Oh,
grass.
yeah.
So we wanted to get rid of those posts around the outside to make it look a little nicer, but if we did that, we'd probably have to curb it, and then you gotta look at drainage, and there's no place to take the drainage, and it just kind of snowballs from there.
Aren't we doing a little bit of drainage work here though?
What about trees and landscaping? I know we have this has the islands, but is there another contractor that we have lined up for landscaping? Is that something that
The
city
service
will do?
department's gonna do that.
Okay, we'll just do that
We're gonna buy the
in-house.
We're gonna buy the trees in-house, and then service will do the landscaping.
Okay,
The trees are $5,000.
Yeah, I think they're like 550 a piece.
Yeah,
So it's like
so,
5,000.
but we're gonna buy those in-house, and service will do them.
okay.
Kind of like they do the street trees.
Oh, I see.
What type of paint are we using for the pavement, Mark?
The.
Thermoplast or
No, just regular
water-based?
traffic paint.
Transverse. It's transverse.
It's especially.
On an angle.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the way it,
So there were no, like, what-ifs brought up from the contractor? I know, like, seems like you stayed in with a reasonable amount of I'm referring to the contingency. There wasn't anything that they had maybe brought up, any significant what-ifs, I guess, for the future? Just for planning's sake, I know this has already gone to bid, and now we're just seeking award.
No.
Okay.
Typically, they don't do that until pre-construction because they don't want to bring up the what-ifs ahead of time.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can't,
you never know, sometimes you get.
sometimes they do, but the problem is, if they ask it and he answers it, he has to give answer to all the bidders.
Right.
Yeah.
I
right.
can't imagine what they would run into there that would be any,
Don't say that out loud.
You never know what's underneath the ground till you dig.
that used to be a dunk down there.
Well, there you go. I don't really have any more questions.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
I'm fine with this.
Recommend sending it on to, well, let's make it contingent upon any input from Recreation Committee.
We'll send it to rec committee. So you will not see this on council next Tuesday because Jonathan has asked to review both of these pieces of legislation at the rec committee because they're parks. So these are going to go to rec committee, their first meeting, which is the second week in February. And then if approved and we can move forward, they'll be on city council the second meeting in February, which is the third week in February.
That seems standard. That's actually written in the code, I think, that anything has to go like that has to go through that.
The next one is very similar to the first one, except that Rotary Park already has a paved parking lot. So this is repaving and bringing us up to the city standards regarding things like islands and trees and things like that. We sent this out for bid January 10th for the second time. You should be aware that this was a second bid. There was a typo in our first bid that was not really correctable, and so we had to rebid this project. We rebid this project January 10th, 2022. 4 bid submissions came in ranging from about $292,000 to $314,000. The lowest and best was GEO Gretel, thank you, Gretel Company, says the woman who can't say Sandretto. GEO Gretel Company at $292,899.78. Once again, we are requesting a 10% contingency fee, which in this case would be $29,289.97. We would ask that this be passed and forwarded to rec.
I'm kind of surprised that it got so few bidders on it, considering.
I think the rebid, once they knew, because the bids were open and they were public, once they knew what the low bid was the first time around, if they couldn't go under it, there was no reason to rebid because you know what lowest was the last time. And it wasn't the bidders We just had a typo that we had to fix.
Yeah, but there was changes, so, in the plan.
Well, it's also, this one does have a couple of alternates with it, just because I had a feeling when I was doing the plans and working on my estimate that it was gonna come over with a little higher than what Bridget had originally estimated it at. Not really her fault, but once you got into it, there's stuff that, unless you deal with it every day, you probably don't think about. Because what this is gonna do is the existing islands that are out there now, we're gonna curve those. Well, a lot of people don't think, oh, that sounds great, just throw some curve around it. Well, there's catch basins in the middle, and that all drains to those. So once you put the curve around, you're cutting off the drainage, you have to do something with drainage. Then there'll be a couple spots there where there aren't currently islands. We will be adding islands to bring us up to the city code. Once again, service will be planting trees in there. The other alternates, I did the island in the front separate because there was some talk about maybe we should wait on that.
As the
Total.
total?
Yep.
Okay, just, sorry.
In case, heard some rumors that they may want to do something different with the sign out there. So I bid it separately so we can kind of see what the pricing was, and I think they're kind of set now at, they may or may not, but they don't know when. And they can replace the sign, and it really won't harm anything. And then the other ones, the sidewalk doesn't go through the entrance per the code, so we were looking at one of the alternates is to add that. And then since we're going to be cutting up the parking lot to add these islands, and with the inclusive playground that just went out there, the pickleball courts that are going to be going out there, there are some spots that are looking kind of rough. The one alternate was then to take everything and take 1.5 inches off and put 1.5 inches of new asphalt back. So when you're done, it looks like it's a new project and you don't see all these patches everywhere.
Oh, that was an alternate to do that?
Yes, that was in there too. So this
So-
price is for everything.
Okay,
Including
And-
all of the alternates.
All the alternates.
yes.
So you may see this rewritten just a little bit. I may redraft the legislation to say the base bid plus all alternates, just so everybody knows that at city council.
Is this the one we had $75,000 in the budget for, and then we had to add 111
Yep,
when amended?
yep.
I would be curious, imagine this is regular water-based traffic paint. It's not water-based, what do you call it that? It's rather, it's not thermoplast, the heat.
No, it's not the thermoplast.
There are benefits to using that. Is there a reason why we don't?
I've never used it on a parking lot because they're relatively easy to restripe.
Exactly. I was just curious.
I've used it, usually when I used it, it was for stop bars, crosswalks, the transverse lines. On roads, any of the long lines, center lines, edge lines, we use normal paint on. Parking lots, we usually use normal paint because you just have a man with a walk behind machine, going through and striping it off, so.
And as you know, DNR uses thermal for the parking lots because they don't have the capabilities to come back and paint them every year. I wonder if there's a price savings to do one versus the other. There's no way to determine that. I was just
I don't
curious.
know. They say the thermoplastic will last 5 years, but I've had some, like the arrows on the pavement and stuff, that after like 2 to 3, they start to go. I had some that was put down probably later in the year than it should have been, but it was still within the specs. That after a year, half of it's pulled up. So it's really hard to say.
I was just curious.
We have our own inspector now to oversee this now, right?
We have an inspector to oversee projects, depending upon how many projects he's doing at any given time. I don't know the answer as to whether or not he's assigned to oversee these 2 projects or if Brian's doing it.
I don't know who's doing it yet. I don't know when they're looking at starting per se. So.
Someone from the city will be overseeing. We don't have to outsource that.
I do not plan on outsourcing either of these.
Okay.
Okay. Relatively, I mean, you know as well as I do, there's only certain times when you absolutely have to be on a project. Most of the time you can get by with just checking.
Before they pay,
There's
the
various.
base and everything?
Yeah, various.
We're just gonna send Councilman Fuller out there, he can sit and watch. There you go.
In the neighborhood, I'll stop by.
I don't really have any other questions.
No, that sounds good to me. That was
Do you
the
have
best.
anything?
No, I don't, I know.
All the paperwork's good on this, right? You don't have that one, deal with that one intersection. Everybody got their proper paperwork in?
Yes,
No.
oh, yeah, that was awful.
I know typically at this stage, and I guess, sorry, I guess I do have one question. Apologies. So is this typical to start something like this off in this committee? Is that why it's started here, it's going to end here, and then be moved on? Okay.
No,
That's a brilliant question.
It is.
Okay.
Typically.
Most service projects start at this committee, yes.
Okay.
Stripping and paving, mostly anything that Brian is drugged to city committees for, except I drug him to personnel yesterday for his new employee. But utility things will start in your committee. So if we're going to replace water lines, they don't come here, they go to you. If we're going to replace sewer lines, and sometimes there's not a committee that really something fits into. So sometimes it's a little bit of a guessing game. We sometimes use finance for that purpose because everything costs money. So you can at least say, it didn't fit in anywhere else, it costs money, so it's going to go to finance. These, Jonathan has asked, and this is a conversation for council members to have, that anything involving the parks go to recreation committee, even if it is a service project at the parks. So since this was already on the agenda and headed here today, we decided we'd just send it to both committees. It is very uncommon and not really best practice to have multiple committees because it just slows the process down. And once 3 out of 7 of you have moved it forward, or 2 out of 7 of you have moved it forward, then it can go to council for discussion and pass or not pass. In this case, we're just going to send it to two committees.
Okay. And just to re-clarify, this one is at the same stage, this has already gone through the bid process. They've already, so I mean, at this stage, we're not really changing it. Correct. I mean, you can't do that.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Not unless you're on the chain order. Any other questions?
Okay, I'll send that to rec committee. The next one, I am not going to take, but I did want to point out to you that the resolution was drafted by my law intern. It's his first resolution. So in fairness, it was a cheat, cut and paste, but I still think that you all should know that he's working hard. And,
Very thorough.
I just wanted you to be aware.
Great.
All right, the next one has to do with the Safe Routes to Schools grant. I was asked about the city looking into that grant program to get funds for stuff. The very first step with that, if you're going to apply for a grant, is you have to have a school travel plan. I looked, the city does have a school travel plan, but it was done back in 2009. ODOT recommends that you update it every 5 years. And it's very unlikely if we submitted for a project with a travel plan that would be 13 years old, that we would get approved. So what I'm looking at doing is we can ask, instead of submitting a project, they also have non-infrastructure areas that you can look at. And one of those is either doing a school travel plan or updating the school travel plan. So I want to put a request in to get reimbursed to have somebody update the plan for us. So that's where we're going. Once we get that, you know, they'll look at the schools that'll change. And I put a little packet together. I think Kate sent it out. Just kind of some general stuff. It tells you what they need to change. They need to look at the demographics, if the school's moved. how many students live within 2 miles of the schools. There's a whole big range of stuff that needs to be updated. And then based on that, they look at, and they'll come up with a list of projects that say, hey, for this school, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. Give rough estimates for it. And then once we have that, in future years, we can go and say, okay, this year we want to apply for this project, this. It's in our plan. And you kind of go from there.
Brian, is this going to slow down our process that we already have going about, that I've been working on quite a bit, is the school zone, putting a school zone for 7th and Louisiana Avenue? Do you know where we stand on that?
I need to double check with service. We submitted the stuff to ODOT. They gave their blessing. We were supposed to put the signs up. And then we just had to sign the form and say the signs were placed on this date and send it back to them. So I have to double check to see if they got the signs up or not.
Okay. Yeah, I know, I remember talking to Bridget last, we were just going to have signs for now,
Right.
and not yet any flashing lights just yet, right?
Correct.
But possibly in the future? Or-
If it's warranted based on, pedestrian counts and that kind of stuff, yeah, that could potentially be a future project. Yes.
Oh, okay. And that would that be looked at in this plan?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, that's great. And so all we're doing here is just proving that we can request funds for a grant.
Correct.
And do a study.
Yep, I'm asking a consultant for a budgetary price. So I'm supposed to get it this week, so I don't have it tonight. So Kate and I kind of talked about it. So I think she currently has it worded as up to the maximum of $60,000, which is what ODOT will reimburse. I don't expect it to be that much. I did find the old PO from 2008. When they did the plan originally, it was just under $22,000. So I'm assuming to update it, even with inflation, it should be less than that. But I just wanted to throw that out kind of ballpark. If you see that, we're not hoping to spend a third of that, if that.
And you said that the update, the entity that will update the plan is potentially can be reimbursed by ODOT, or will they not do that portion of it?
We would pay the consultant, and then ODOT would pay us back.
Okay.
And it's 100%.
This is one of their most underutilized plants they have. So I can't see them denying it. ODOT, that is. This and there's. Any more questions?
I have no other questions. Sounds like a great.
Recommend we move it on to.
Yeah, thanks for drawing a label.
And I think she also sent out a copy of the old plan, if you guys want to look through it. It's riveting reading.
I don't think I got
See,
that.
now I
Oh, no,
find
you
it.
did. You got it the second time because the first time it went to Mark Sandretto, who called me and said, I don't think you meant to send this to me.
How long ago did you send it?
I sent it out like an hour ago, maybe.
Oh, okay, that's why I didn't see
Yeah.
it yet. Oh, all right. I don't want to get any Mark's emails now. I don't think I can handle what he does.
He definitely sent me a text and said, I don't think that you intended for me to be the one to get this. So yes, I sent it to you, just you, so.
Okay.
It should be there. Okay. We need an additional $5,000 for the Station 38 improvement project. As you know, we put in a 7% contingency fee when we did the Station 38 improvement project legislation. We didn't have Brian, and we were sort of ballparking what we thought the contingency might be. We've asked for an additional $10,000. You have a list of the various things that have come up that have caused these change orders to come through. And in this case, we're asking for an additional $5,000 because the, I put it in here, now because we need to build up the floor in the new toilet shower rooms to provide slope for drainage. We need to replace a door frame to allow for the door to swing into the bay, and we need to put laminate on the ends of the exposed lockers.
Okay, now this was on the original. That's not what I'm reading about.
Yeah, I'm reading the
Something
old
different.
change order.
Water line, I'm reading about the water line.
Yeah, this is.
Go to that's what we did the last time. I wanted you to see what we did the last time.
Oh,
And then
okay.
go all the way through, read change order 8, and then the paragraph below that is what we're doing this time.
You had me worried. I was like, why are you coming back to us with this?
I only have up to change order 4.
Do you not have page 2?
No.
Oh,
Talk to that intern.
That page, we didn't give you a page 2. There's a page 2 to this,
Okay.
which I apologize that you all did not get. Would you like to read page 2 and pass it
Please.
down?
Yeah, you had me concerned when I'm reading this thinking, we already paid for this, right?
yes, we did. That's what we did the first time. This is
So, is it 5 through 8 is on this one?
just that last paragraph after 8. All those other things are just so you know what
Oh,
came
all
out
right. Okay.
prior. And the first section is what we did
I see.
that we asked about the last time.
We know what issues with this.
Yes. Like I said at the last one, it's just so typical with these projects when you're dealing with a 60-year-old building like that.
Same as 60-year-old.
60-year-old, yeah, 60-year-old. 60, that building was built the year I was born.
That's, you never know, as I was pointing out with
So-
the pavement, you never know what you run into once you get below the surface.
There were very little in the way of codes back then, and just threw stuff in. Probably didn't-
Councilman Fuller, what you weren't here for, although you may have sat through that meeting, I'm not sure, is that once we got into this project, the plans that were on file or the design views didn't actually match what was in the building. So we have found pipes in places that nobody knew pipes were, holes in walls that nobody knew where holes were, and things that nobody could have known because you go off of the plans, you can only do so much, as you're aware.
Yep.
And so, because of that, there have just been a myriad of problems that have come up during the course of this improvement project. But it's really to benefit the health and safety of our firefighters, so it's a good project. It will be really good when it's done. It's just come up with a few hiccups along the way.
How close are they to finishing up?
I think if we're up to this point, we must be pretty close.
They just have a couple of punch list items.
Okay, because I would hate to have another change order.
Sure, the guys over there at the fire station want this thing wrapped up, don't they?
Yes. Any additional questions? I'm sorry you didn't get page 2 and that I confused you all so much. I apologize.
I was about ready to say something, so.
I have no idea where page 2 went.
I was gonna say something, but I would have been nice.
Okay. We'll take your email now.
If that question was what it would have been, why are we paying for something that we're in?
I'm all for it.
Okay, I'm sending on.
That was a 3-0? Okay, you all received an email from administration with proposed budget amendments, as well as proposed expenditures for the ARPA funds. I will do my best to answer questions. But this will be, the amended budget will be up for its first reading on Tuesday, and I would welcome any questions. I think sometimes there's some confusion when things are at first readings that we have to wait till final readings for discussion, and we absolutely don't have to. So if you have questions on Tuesday, or if you have questions before Tuesday, we would love email so we are prepared, we know what you need to know. And we would very much love to answer questions before we get to the final day for the vote.
Are you talking about the ARPA funds?
I'm talking about both, but primarily I'm talking about the amended budget, that's going to be up for its first reading on Tuesday.
I haven't looked at it.
Okay. The things that involve this committee is general HVAC replacement. Any particular buildings or just,
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that, but that's a
Oh.
good question that we will take to administration, be able to answer.
yeah, I mean, are there any that are in need of replacement immediately, or is this just if something goes wrong?
If you know the budget line, I don't want to tell you, I wonder if it has to do with, I bet you it has to do with the second floor police division. Because look at the budget line item number.
403? Oh, I'm sorry, it is the same,
Yes. it's
the same as the police division, so,
Yeah.
okay, that's, all right. Thanks, I got my answer there, Kate.
I'll make sure, though, because the 403 fund funds more than just, that's all capital projects.
Yeah,
So I
but-
will confirm for you that that's what that's for.
okay, looks like all the numbers match. Courthouse roof,
I think that's the courthouse roof.
yeah, and then there's refuse truck replacement.
We had, I think that's, that a service or utility? I can never remember which.
Refuse truck replacement can be serviced, that's under Rob, he's the head of service.
That's also, because we had talked about that. Don't we have a rotation process?
We do. On all of our vehicles, we've
Yeah.
implemented or we're trying to implement so that we don't ever hit a point where we suddenly have a year that everything breaks all at the same time. So that's why, for instance, safety sees police vehicles every year because the police department is so hard on vehicles that we have to rotate those through at a regular pace. That's true of service as well. I mean, one of the things that I've learned since taking this job is municipalities are really rough on vehicles, just by nature of what we do. And to keep up, we have to rotate the replacement of them or we can end up in real trouble all of a sudden.
Where's the gateway signage, do you know?
Yeah, that's coming over the bridge. Remember they had a little poll asking us, what, is that, I think that's the signage we're talking about, that they gave us a few options of what we liked. To comment, or is that, you remember that, Kate?
Yeah.
Is that what this is for, and this is just,
Oh, okay.
Remember,
This
there were
is a
emails that went
carryover.
around with
Yeah.
different,
mhm.
yes,
They want to go through with that this year?
I think that's the idea.
Yeah, all right, and that just carried over. Shallow roof, is that a shingled roof, you know?
I thought it was slate.
75,000 seems pretty low if it's a slate.
I think it's,
Must be shingled if it's for 75,000.
Quicker on sidewalk.
So we're just starting to put money away for the municipal building replacement, right, every year, is that is?
Yeah, I think that's also for potentially design. I mean, you can't really start a plan until you have some ideas. So I believe that the goal of that money is to look at potentially designing.
so that would be an additional 500 on top of the 1 million that's already currently in the budget.
I'm sorry, what line, where are we?
I'm sorry, I was referring to the municipal building replacement.
Yes.
I don't see anything else for this, in this committee. I asked you.
No, but, I would like to discuss the ARPA.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Maybe I should wait, because none of this really affects us, other than the fact that we have to maintain it. It has to be built.
Okay,
If you have questions you want me to take to administration, I'm happy to do that.
I am questioning a few of these items, why they're even being considered.
Absolutely, just,
these are all just your suggestions, right?
Right. I hope so, because one thing that we don't have on here that we've talked about and we should put on here is a park for the west side, over by Cole Court.
Well, I think, it's not- and that's not McKinley Woods area improvements. I have a question here. Does that mean the park over there, that park property that we bought? Or is that for
Like Cole-
streets?
Cole Court?
Yeah, McKinley Woods is co-court.
so these are other suggestions.
Yeah, under the other suggestions,
I will find out.
okay.
And what are the parameters of what we can use this for?
That's really a better question for Bridget and Amber. I sat through a lecture this afternoon, and I'm just going to say I'm your lawyer and not your finance person, thank God. So revenue replacement and then what you do with the revenue replacement is also defined. But municipal infrastructure such as parks are well within the rules. What is it that you were hoping might be within it? So maybe I could ask a specific question, or we could research a specific subject.
Since we're having such issues with it, there's a couple things. The big thing is, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for inclusive parks and stuff, but we just have a brand new one built, so why they put another one from Woodlawn on there? I'm kind of surprised. It's not that I don't think we need it, but I think there's other things we should work on. Another one that comes to mind is the bike path along the river. We're having such issues with it, so supposedly with the EPA. Why couldn't we use some of this money to address those issues and get it built?
Okay?
We talked about that, didn't we?
Yes. And I know that the problem there is the sewer lines. We're waiting for the EPA to tell us if we have to go with parallel lines or increase the line we have. Am I saying that right, Brian?
Yeah, it's EPA with the sewer. We have to do something with the sewers. One of the options is running a parallel sewer through there where the bike path would go. So that's why we've kind of been holding off, because we didn't want to put the bike path in. And then EPA says, yeah, put your sewer here, and we're coming through the next year or two later and tearing it all up to put a sewer in. So that's kind of why we were holding off on that one.
But we've been holding off for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Some of us are.
we can't get an answer. Can we maybe just take some of this money and do the work above and beyond maybe what like the worst case scenario or something, so we can get that completed? I mean, I think the citizens have been waiting long enough for that riverfront access.
I agree with you.
And kind of to echo what Kate said, I'm not an expert on what these funds can be used for. I don't know if these funds can be used on sewer, water stuff or not.
I do know that they can be used on sewer and water,
Infrastructure.
specifically sewer and water, yes.
Mhm.
So,
And if,
but
you know.
again, these are conversations that we want to have with all of you, so I think this is a good conversation to have. I can make this an agenda item for city council for Tuesday if you would like that to happen. That's what this committee is asking for.
The other thing is, exploring possibly using it for the bike path along Indiana Avenue.
Well, so I know you're not prepared to answer a lot of these questions because
It's
Bridget's
not my
not here.
expertise area.
I understand that. So is it something maybe you want to discuss during your report area at the council meeting?
No, you're looking for input now, right?
I'm looking for input now, but I also feel that this is a discussion that if you want to have, you can have at every committee level. I can put it on city council agenda if you want me to do it. So,
I do, those two are the main ones I'd like to see.
so
I think it's very appropriate to start at the committee level because there's a significant
Absolutely.
amount that's spread throughout. If we're sending certain projects direct now, let's just put the ones that go there initially with the parks and everything else.
So I'm just asking if you want to, if I can give Bridget these conversation
Yeah.
points
Sure.
and then continue these to this conversation to other committees, or if you want this on Tuesday's agenda. That's really all I'm asking.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree with Kevin.
So I'll give these talking points to Bridget, and then we will continue to put this on the committee agendas for as long as we need to put them on the committee agendas.
And I also think maybe the ADA one should be moved up. That is going to be a big ticket item.
We currently have money in the budget for the downtown ADA project. Is that true? Or is that a question we can ask?
There is some money in there.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to be enough.
Okay, so,
Looking at the estimates that were put together for the original study, I think I think they look too close and didn't look at the bigger picture.
mhm.
So, for example, they said that this curb ramp's not funny, it'll cost $1,200 to replace it. Well, they didn't look at, okay, if we replace this, what's it gonna do to the drainage that goes around that corner?
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna get into more than what they thought.
They did it very piecemeal instead of looking at the big picture.
The first report?
The first one.
The first
Yeah.
part. And for example, another example, if you have a crosswalk here, you better better put one across the street. If you're putting in more than one crosswalk, it might be a little cheaper for ADA ramps and stuff. They didn't.
I know, I mean, looking at this, and I understand what like ARPA was intended to do to cover in
Yes.
areas that were affected negatively by COVID. I just want to make sure we're not drumming up projects that we're trying to put the funds to use. I know beautifying the city is extremely important, adding parks and things like that, but I know there are a lot of businesses that were negatively impacted by that. Can any of this money be used towards finance or like economic development on that end?
Yes. It's more challenging to do it that way, to be perfectly honest. But that is a question that would absolutely be appropriate for the finance committee, because Amber's the expert on this, or working on being the expert on this. So,
I do have a follow-up question to that. We had a grant program. I'd be curious, does anybody know if any businesses actually applied for those grants?
I have not seen anything come through, no.
I've never seen any.
I don't know if people are aware of that the city had a grant program.
Well, as long as we're talking on this list, can I just go right down and just address some of the things that pertain to this committee, like
Sure.
LED streetlight conversion?
Right.
Okay, my question is that all lights throughout the city? Everyone that's a high-pressure sodium or, the
Yes.
old yellowing
Well-
type, are they all going to be converted to LED?
This,
We're asking?
that is the ultimate goal, yes.
Okay. And the $250,000 estimate would get all of our streetlights? Now, we don't own those streetlights though, right? Edison, don't we just pay the electricity for them, but Edison maintains them?
I think it depends on where it's at, isn't it?
I'm gonna ask.
I'm not sure.
I don't know how it works up here.
Or,
Because I
those are
know-
questions I think we need to know before we would even consider something like this.
Yeah, I mean, this is really just a discussion
Oh, sure, and I'm really glad we're discussing it.
with good
You know-
questions that I will happily forward on to people who know the answer to.
Next
So-
question.
Go ahead. If you're gonna do the LED lights, you might as well throw in, solar panel battery backup for traffic lights at key intersections. You know what I'm talking about? We're not using them on all their lights out in the country. They have solar powered battery backups for traffic lights, so if you lose power, you got anywhere from 5 to 10 hours of runtime on those.
Okay?
So you're not having the police come out and do traffic control at intersections.
Sounds very worthwhile. Going down the list, I see the LED streetlights for the Roachton multi-use path, which I think is a great idea. That's a very dark road. And do you know if this would just put arms on the existing poles that are right next to that? Is that what you're looking at? Okay. That would, I went by there, they look like they're spaced just right to light that path. And I really like that idea, and that looks like a pretty reasonable number to do such a thing there. So I'd love to see that one stay on the list. And we talked about the pedestrian crossing yesterday, but we didn't get a location of what we were talking about. That for 25,000 was that? Do you know where that was?
I do not, but I will find out for you.
Okay. And then, as long as you're writing things down, Kate, on other suggestions, I would like to know more about alley repair. We have many alleys that are just, there are some big dips in there.
I was gonna say, before, I forgot until I got through it, when we get to other business, I do have a citizen's complaint about a particular alley.
Oh, I do too. We might be the same citizen. I have that on my other business. Okay, we'll get to that. That's funny. I bet it's the same citizen.
I don't know.
Alley repair. Right now, we just go around and just patch potholes, don't we?
Yes.
Some of them are beyond potholes. I know it because I ride these alleys a lot. And I'm not asking for repair just for the bicyclists. I'm looking for the people that really use these alleys a lot for their garage. There's a lot of them. Jan's one of them.
You would not believe the amount of foot and bicycle traffic that go down these alleys. It's huge, especially in the warm weather.
It really has, and it's increased a lot in the last couple of years.
Which is why they're pushing that.
Just one thing to remember with that, if you go through and start repaving all the alleys, then you're going to start getting complaints about people speeding down the alleys.
Well, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere, Brian.
No, I understand. I'm just saying a lot of people don't think about that, but I've had that in my other community.
Oh, I can understand that.
You don't do it, and then, we need to put speed bumps in all the alleys because people are speeding. And I said, well, I had an inverted speed bump. It was a pothole. I don't like it. What do you want?
They make these real neat,
I like that.
and I prefer them over asphalt speed bumps, is those strips, the speed bump strips. But anyways.
Okay, one more. I just got going down this list. I see the expanded parking at Hood Park. Would this be what we talked about, Brian, down there at Riverside for that west of the boat club, some handicap parking? Are you talking about would this suggestion be for a bigger project at Hood Park?
To be perfectly honest, I haven't seen this list, so
Oh, okay.
I can't answer that.
All right, well, you remember that conversation we had down there, and I think you came up with an estimate number there. I know that would involve, in order to get we need handicap parking between the boat club and Riverside Park. Just to get access down there. The construction is done on the boat club, so that's what we were waiting for to complete our multi-use path, but now it looks like, no, I don't think.
It's further down.
Yeah, that's further down, but between the boat club and Riverside Park, that was phase 2A, I believe. And we were just waiting for the construction. Well, the boat club has definitely told us that they're not going to be planning on building that other building anytime soon, if at all. So they made it clear they're ready for that, to complete phase 2A there. So shouldn't we already have money in the budget for that?
I would have an estimate for it, gave it the budget, but like I said, I don't know if that's what she called it or if that's for something else.
Okay. Well, it's just another question for your list then, and if Bridget wants to
And if I
email
missed
us.
something, she's back tomorrow, so
That's
she'll be at
great.
city council next week and all the committee meetings after that, so.
Yeah, we don't have to go through all this.
Nobody says you can't ask a question about a service project on here at another committee meeting. I'm not gonna say you can't ask that, because you're in
Okay.
a different committee meeting.
Yeah, what might help too is if we're able, maybe we just get a summary of what the ARPA funds can be used for too. That way we can have maybe our own recommendations too. We can at least
There are many of
contribute to the
those out
process.
there, sure.
Sure there are.
Yes, that's,
Okay.
yeah, that way we wouldn't have to keep asking you, is this covered, is this covered? You can just tell us
I mean, everything
what.
that's listed is eligible,
Yeah, everything listed here, that's good.
yes.
I was particularly interested in and it's just a thought idea, and I don't know if it would, never mind.
Okay.
Other business, I had another complaint about the alley runs parallel between 6th and 5th, between Pine and Mulberry runs parallel. The plows went down and plowed it, and there's snow. I mean, the thing's rutted real bad. The trucks, when they paved the one end, it's just half of it, the south part of that alley. And when the trucks paved the north end, they just rutted the crap out of it. It's gotten continually worse. I mean, it's literally like that.
Well, that's what I'm seeing down there by Front Street as well.
Where's your?
Okay, no, the citizen complaint that I have about an alley is, and that was my question, I know you're not gonna have the answer because it would be a Bridget or Rob Ross question. Maybe they can get me the answers. What is the order of plowing the alleys? Do they get plowed anymore? I know you do the main streets and then the side streets. They eventually get to them, or because the resident that notified me said they used to do them, they used to be on the cycle, you know, it'd be like third down the list. Now they're not getting done at all.
See, mine was done.
But yours got, and now you're telling me yours got plowed.
Oh,
This
yeah.
resident is saying,
Which alley was it that did not get plowed?
the one in question is, runs between Cherry and Walnut, north, between 6th and 7th. Okay, but it's just not just that alley. This resident's pointing out that many alleys just are not getting plowed. And I know we used to have a small plow truck
They
that
are
did those.
getting plowed, they're just not getting plowed as fast as the people would like. Like this last storm, they got plowed, because I live on.
Did they?
one.
Okay.
But it's not, it's like the very last. And so I'm trying to think, when did the snow started? Saturday night. It would have been late Sunday afternoon, late Sunday, early Monday.
You had a plow
morning.
go down that alley you saw?
I saw it. It was yeah, so I don't know.
This resident contacted me still on Tuesday and said it was never plowed. It was just packed down from traffic. But the only thing I want to point out is, I know they're not primary or secondary, they're down the list, but many residents use those as their only access into their homes, into their garages and stuff. So they do need those plowed. And I was just wondering, do we still have a small plow truck that does just alleys?
They have a one.
Or is it a staff problem? that
They
we
have a one-ton and a pickup.
Right, but do they now, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, they have a one-ton and a pickup.
Okay,
One-ton, you know what a one-ton is.
well then, yes.
I don't see why they're complaining, because I know they got plowed, I saw them.
No, I'm just, well,
And
maybe they all
I'm thinking is
did.
maybe they don't salt them.
No,
And they
I-
shouldn't waste the salt on them.
okay.
But they got plowed. They might not got as plowed as fast as they got done, but would have wanted it done.
Well, all I'm looking for is an answer that I can give to the resident, and what is the policy and how they do that. Maybe, but this particular one was very clear, told me that this one did not get plowed, okay? But I'm just saying, I'd just like to know, is there a policy? And do we have a certain truck that is just for alleys? Or are we short-staffed that we can't, put somebody on that small truck? I know these are questions for Robin, Bridget, so
I will get you the answer.
either one of them can answer me with an email, and I'll pass it on to the resident.
And they should be very, very lax. They shouldn't, if they're having troubles on the streets, we shouldn't take a plow off the street and do an alley.
I don't think our street plows really would do the alleys. The
Oh,
one-ton,
even-
you're talking about the one-ton pickups.
You can have a one-ton pickup the street. You can have and I'm sure the pickups probably use it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think we all understand, they're down the list. Alleys are down the list, but they still need to be, I think they need to be done in the next day or so.
I just find it hard to believe that.
I don't
I'm
want-
not saying they're wrong, but
I'm just not about to call a citizen a liar.
No,
until
I'm
I-
not either, but they do exactly.
Okay.
I don't mind going on. I just find it hard to believe, because I know how,
Mhm.
like, everyone's walking the alleys, and I didn't notice anything.
I don't know, Jan. I'm just saying, I'm just relaying what
Run
was
that.
told to me.
I know.
Anything else?
I'm done. Anybody else? I mean,
Don't have anything else? Thank you.
I'm very sympathetic to them, and we should ask, and we should find out.